Edwards on the drive, goes inside the floor. And just overthrow. Turn him over again. Booker scoops it up. Booker brings the boom.
We got the Up the Lock show here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. Two-man booth today. Myself, JSU at JSU Rab on Twitter, and Mr. DC. I think it's at Draft Cheat on Twitter. If you want to give him a follow, one of the best follows I would highly recommend of the DFS personalities. I'll throw DC a bone there. But DC, you ready to talk some NBA hoops?
Yeah, absolutely. Day after Christmas here, and I feel relief, JSU. Christmas season in the background. The stress of what you're trying to buy random consumer shit for people that they don't need. You got to call your family and hang out with people.
That's my favorite, DC, is like literally like 80, I would say like 80% of the gifts that people are buying are shit they're buying for others that they don't need. Like the others don't need, but it's just Christmas, you know what I mean? So that's the funniest part to me, though.
Yeah, it's a lot of Christmas season, and honestly, it doesn't feel like the day after Christmas. But I'm happy, JSU, to get back to just the normal grind. I got a feeling you might be the same way. Perfectly happy in your day-to-day, kind of do the same shit, do it again, wake up, life is good. You don't need all these, variables that the Christmas season brings into the equation, right? None of them good. I'm
now,
good.
I will say, I do enjoy the Christmas NBA slate, so that was fun for me. Because I love like the strategy with the games being a little apart, so you can like after one game kind of look at how your teams are doing if you want to adjust, and then you get another game. That was fun for me.
I love the Christmas NBA slate. I think it's my favorite NBA slate outside of the playoff ones, which are fantastic too.
Yes.
But yeah, I think I saw you up there in the qualifier for tomorrow's $2,500. I stacked.
Yeah, me and you were up there. I think
I stacked the Spurs and Knicks game in all my lineups. So I had 100% Wemby across my 10 lineups, which was awesome. But like early on in the day, I was winning like $70,000 off of a couple hundred in entries, and then every game, every single play that happens, you just lose a little bit. Till by the end of the night, I think I was like a very, very slight winner. Barely lost my ticket that I was in first out of like 400 people going into the last game.
And I was in second going into the last game.
Yeah.
Me and you were
you got knocked out too, or no? Did you hold on?
I got knocked out. Yeah. I had Monte Morris, who played well, who was good, but just wasn't good enough to overcome. I had too many guys that, because we both had Wemby, but I had too many guys that like didn't do good enough to overcome the.
We had just good enough team to have hope that we would hang on, but kind of knowing that they're probably going to get us in the end.
We needed the game to like blow out pretty much. We needed the game to bust, and it didn't bust for sure, or just bust, I guess. But LeBron was good. I didn't have LeBron. Jason Tatum, that was my king of the court play. DC came in second, so I was kind of tilted because I had the Jason Tatum king of the court, and he was the second best PRA on the day to Wemby. But at least he got killed by Wemby.
15 though, so it wasn't particularly close.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say like at least he lost by like 13. Because if he lost by like 2, I would have been pissed.
Did you watch the Spurs game? Spurs and Knicks?
Oh, yeah. That was the best game. I personally thought, and I know everyone's going to say the Lakers and Golden State. I personally had the most fun watching Wemby against the Knicks.
If you had Wembanyama in DFS, it was a pretty fun game to watch. So that might.
Well, I did. So that's why I had the most. That's why I selfishly had the most fun watching.
I greatly enjoyed it too. The thing I was going to say. And I've watched a fair bit of Spurs and Wemby this season, but that dude is just launching from 3, like way out there. And there's nothing anyone can do about it, right? Like you can't, he's 7'7" and shooting it from like 4 feet beyond the arc. So
DC, my favorite was, I don't know if you remember this play. There was a miss. I think it was like in the second quarter, but I could be wrong. There was a miss, and Wemby, like, it was like up in the air, and he took his right hand. He jumped up with one hand, like snagged it one-handed, and whoever, it was Cat or whoever, was just kind of looking at him. And then he came down and like, just like put it in. And everyone was just like, what? He like high pointed the ball though. He had like his arm outstretched. He jumps up one arm, grabs the ball, high points it, comes back down, and then just lays it in. And I was just like, alien.
As good as Cat is, Cat's having he's like arguably the best big man
that
shooter.
Could be like MVP conversation. He should be MVP conversation if he's not.
He's crazy though. He's going to be
good.
The guy I'm going to try to play a ton of. Just, like if you're just kind of neutral on the field, if you don't think it's a perfect Wemby matchup, whatever, he's just a guy that break ties with that guy, because he's going to have a lot of huge performances over the next 15 years. I mean, it's just ridiculous what he can do.
No, he's going to be fun to watch for a while. I will say, I do wish that he'd get down in the paint a little bit, but I think it'll come as he gets a little stronger. I think you're going to see his game kind of get more down in the paint.
Remember what Giannis looked like when he first got to the league? He was like super skinny, and now he's like the most jacked dude there is. I assume something similar happened to Wemby.
His game though was like the reverse, right? Like he was never shooting launching the threes, but he was totally different. And like it takes a long time for those guys that are that like tall and long to like fill in. It takes them a little bit longer, obviously. So it's gonna take Wemby. I bet you it takes him like 4 or 5 actual full NBA years with like strength and conditioning to get like some real size. Dude, look at Giannis rookie pictures and you're like, holy shit, like that's crazy. So same thing with LeBron though. LeBron was strong, but he was skinny. Like he was skinny, and now he's jacked. So it takes them a little bit of time. So
absolutely.
All right, we got a pretty good slate here on DraftKings. I think it's 7 games on DraftKings to touch on. Obviously, we don't have the 2 late games. If you're playing on the other site, as we'll say, there is some decent games late if you're going there. So depending on when we get through with these 7 games, maybe we touch on those. But we're gonna start with the DraftKings slate here. First game on the DraftKings slate, DC, Charlotte and Washington here. And I'll throw it to you. We got Koulibaly. It looks like he's going to be in. Sar, Bub, those guys are all available. They were questionable earlier in the day, but it looks like they're all going to play. So they're kind of not fully healthy, still down Kuzma and stuff. And then we got Brandon Miller, who I think is going to play as well. So got guys that, were questionable during the day, but are going to play. What does that do for you with this Charlotte-Washington game, DC?
Yeah, I mean, we start off with a pretty good DFS game. You can't necessarily say it's, going to be the most hard-fought NBA game of all time, but that's not really what we want when we're targeting DFS players anyway. We'll get to another game that's going to be up and down the court with little defense, but this one's certainly going to be that way. I think, the last time these 2 teams played, I believe LaMelo Ball was my play of the day on that day. Put up a very nice 69 piece against the Wizards. And I mean, I made the same point I'm going to make here. I made it on that show. I can't remember if that was premium or free, but my point was like LaMelo Ball plays like a Harlem Globetrotter, right? He kind of plays a very like unserious brand of basketball that doesn't work when you face a super serious defense, right? That's like intent on stopping you. But the Wizards aren't. They don't really care. And LaMelo Ball, we saw, he just can launch as, just fire away when he's against teams like the Wizards. He took 32 shots against the Wizards. That game was without Brandon Miller, so notable there. 18 threes. He actually shot 3 for 18 from 3. Still put up 69 fantasy points. That could have been a 80, 90 burger if those had been going in. Again, Brandon Miller back, that does change things a little bit. But, I mean, if things are going LaMelo's way and he's kind of feeling himself, I don't think he really cares who he's on the court with, Brandon Miller or not, right? He'll just kind of keep jacking it up and doing his thing. So I do think LaMelo Ball is a good spend. Looks like he'll be moderately owned. Sabres got him around 15%. I think that's fine with me. I'm not super interested in the other pieces on Charlotte, I don't think, unless you could talk me into any of those guys. They've got their centers healthy, so the kind of a deeper rotation there. I think Miller's too expensive. Miles Bridges would be the only other guy, but 6,800 feels like you're kind of reaching at that point to try to get, 40 plus out of Miles Bridges. Maybe he could do it. I think most likely probably not. And then the Wizards side, I haven't played him much this year or recently, kind of swore off him last year, frankly. But Jordan Poole quietly putting together a pretty good or at least productive run of play. Tons of usage with Kuzma out of the lineup. He put up 46 against Charlotte in that game a few days ago as well. So I think Poole is at least in the discussion. And then Alex Sarr, I think, is my favorite play on the Wizards. He too had a big game last time these teams played, 44 fantasy points in 33 minutes. He's another one where I think when he faces tough half-court defenses, kind of tough for Sarr to get to his offensive game. But when it's in a soft matchup like this, a game that gets up and down the court, he can use his athleticism, stuff like that. I think Sarr becomes a pretty good play like he showed last time against the Hornets. So it would be Sarr, my favorite play on the Wizards. LaMelo, Sarr, my two favorite plays in this game. What about you, JC?
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on Sarr. I think he's the guy that I was looking at the most, to be honest, just at the price and stuff like that. I would have LaMelo number 2, not ranking them obviously just point per dollar and stuff like that, because LaMelo is 10K and Miller's coming back. But I agree with you. Those are the two, I think, best plays overall in this game. I think it's pretty clear. And I don't really love much else from this game. Just looking at both these teams, you still got kind of Mark Williams, Nick Richards, Diabate kind of playing the center roles and stuff like that. I really wish they would fully go to, or at least officially go to the two-man center game. That would be nice, DC. But until they do, I just struggle to play, even in good spots, I struggle to play these centers. I would like to play someone like Mark Williams, but I hate playing a guy that's just locked into 19 minutes. Like if you told me he was playing 25 minutes, I'd be like, okay, I could probably get to him. But if he's still playing that, I still can't play him because I just hate playing guys that have minutes caps. So for me, I'm with you. It's those two. I think you could add Miles Bridges to the pool if you're 150ing. I think he's someone that you could add in there, but I probably won't be doing that here. And then on the Washington side, there's not much outside of Sarr that I really like because Joe Val gets hurt by him with all these guys back in. Maybe Koulibaly would be number 2. I think he would be number 2 if I had to rank it. So those would be my two Washington guys, Koulibaly and Sarr, or Sarr and Koulibaly, and then LaMelo and Bridges. But yeah, I'm going to be lower on this game. I think there's better games to jam in on this slate. And, so I think 1 or 2 pieces max from this game and move on here. And we did get news going to the next game here that Miles Turner will play and will be available. So that's pretty big for Indiana, who outside of him and Nesmith, who's been out, Nesmith's still out, but Miles Turner was really the only other questionable guy. So they're pretty healthy, DC, right now. Going up against OKC, kind of a tough spot for these guards, in my opinion. Don't mind Miles Turner, though. If he's playing at 6,300, I think he's someone that I would probably get on board with the most. So that's why I was kind of waiting on this news, seeing if he was going to be available. But I honestly don't like this is another game. I don't really love anything else from Indiana. I think it's more Miles Turner for me at 6,300, just at that price. I think he's got some upside. And then on the OKC side, I think it's a better side, right? DC, I think there's more plays that are in play than on the Indiana side, and SGA's kind of close to the top of my list as one of those studs that I like. If I'm getting up there, him, Ball, I think are 2 of the better overall plays on the slate. I do really like point guard. I think there's some good point guards on this slate. We'll get to John Morant, who I think is a little mispriced on some of these sites. But yeah, point guard's really strong. I like SGA. I like Hartenstein too. It's another guy who's been crushing. And, it just continues to be really solid. I think he's someone that you can keep. Now, the question for me is these cheap OKC guys, because you got no Caruso today, who's been eating up minutes with these guys. Lou Dort sitting there at 4,400. You got Case and Wallace at 43, who I never really like to play, but you got to think him, Isaiah Joe, and Wiggins.
You're not playing those guys, JSU. Come on.
I'm just saying one of those guys gets a bump, though, right? Like, do we think one gets a bump? Or do they all get a bump?
Get a little bump, but I don't think any of them get enough of a bump to make them relevant. I mean,
so you think they all get a bump? Because if they all get a bump, then I don't really like it as much, which is kind of what I think too.
I mean, who do you think gets a bump between Dort, Wallace, Joe, Wiggins?
Honestly, Dort, I think kind of.
In what? His minutes, his usage? I mean,
no, not his minutes. Maybe his usage a little bit. No Caruso. From a minute side, I thought it would be Isaiah Joe, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to go there,
I hate playing Isaiah Joe though.
So
that's the only problem. So
he's the one I would maybe play. He can shoot the three. He's cheaper, 3,400, 1,000 cheaper than Dort. Like, I don't think Dort is like a terrible play. I mean, he'll probably get you 20 fantasy points.
He's like a condom play, is what he is.
Yeah,
that's what he is. I'll say it for you. He's a condom play.
Yeah,
I never play guys like Dort.
Mangone, he couldn't make it here. Once again,
Are you giving Mangone's play of the day as Lou Dort? Is that his? Since he's not here.
Is Tobias Harris on the slate? It does not appear so. Yes,
he's on the late slate. DC. He's on the late slate. Tobias Harris. So
Mangone couldn't come on the show. He's prepping for the late slate because he saw Tobias Harris was available there. So
that's what he's doing. He's prepping.
Yeah.
All right. So for me then, SGA and I think Hartenstein on OKC are my two favorite guys. What about you, DC? What do you like? I know we got some news too. We'll get to that.
Paul Millsap, Al Horford, Tobias Harris. Yeah,
shout out to Paul Millsap. Who used to play Paul Millsap a little bit? Big T used to play some Paul Millsap. He was a big Paul Millsap guy.
My favorite guy to play. This is going to date me a little bit. Way back in the early days of NBA DFS, Joakim Noah. That guy was like a triple-double machine.
Okay. That was my favorite guy was was it Michael Carter Williams from the Sixers?
Yeah,
his rookie season. I'll date you, bro. Back when he was a rookie, his first.
That's probably pretty close.
That was my first year playing DFS, and I remember him. And I used to play Big Baby Davis a lot because he was like cheap. And he used to have those like random games, DC, where he'd like have big game. I don't know if you remember, like back in he used to have these like random games and he was always cheap. So,
and you can tweet the GIF of him,
Yeah, the little GIF. I like the GIF.
I'm not going to do it because that could be clipped and put on the internet forever. So, but people who know.
Michael Carter Williams was the shit because he was bad, but he was like a triple-double threat every time for DFS slates. It was great. And he'd have like 8 turnovers too. So he'd almost have like the quadruple-double with turnovers. It was so good.
He'd be like the quarterback who throws the pick six and benefits from it somehow.
He was Jameis Winston. No, that's what he was. He was Jameis Winston. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And anything else here from this game, though, DC? Because I know the chat wants us to hurry up and get to the news.
Yeah. No, I'm not playing much from this game. Indiana, I can't see getting to. I do think SGA, Hartenstein, like you said, are fine plays, but probably not going to end up there myself. And yeah, we got news coming in, so we can keep it moving, I think.
Okay. All right. Let's keep it moving then. Let's go to the next game here. I mean, Miami, Orlando. This game actually has a little bit of appeal because you got the Jimmy Butler won't play. By the way, I love how they released the statement like we're not trading Jimmy Butler. It's like sure. Okay, you're not trading Jimmy Butler until Jimmy Butler gets pissed and just says I'm not playing for you guys.
They're just trying to get as much as they can for him. He's going to get traded.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. He's getting traded. But I think it's just funny how teams do that. Like, we all know what you're doing. Like, it's not going to work. Like, teams already know that shit. But when I watched this team last game, DC, I kind of hope Rozier, who is going to be available, I was kind of hoping he was going to be out because no Drew Smith. You know who actually looked really good was Nikola Jovic. And he didn't bring the ball up a ton, but he brought the ball up some in that game. And he actually was playmaking a decent amount in that game. He was actually pretty good when he brought the ball up. And he's like overall a pretty good player. Like he can do a little bit of everything. He's 3,800. It's just a bad like matchup. I wish it was a better matchup for someone like him. And probably a different slate. I think we're going to have value, but he does intrigue me at 3,800. You got Jaime Jaquez, who started last game, only played 24 minutes, and he kind of got hurt by some of these guys off the bench, like Jovic. Alec Burks was playing well. They liked Larson in there. He was playing some decent ball. So some of these guys off the bench kind of hurt Jaime Jaquez's overall minutes and upside. And the fact they played Ware off the bench too at center, I thought was kind of interesting. But there's definitely plays in this game if you want to pick some out. I mean, Rozier's cheap. Hero had the big game last time out. What are you doing with the Heat, DC? Because I think they're definitely the best side of this game.
Yeah, obviously no Jimmy Butler. They lose Drew Smith. I mean, you mentioned some of the value plays. I think Jovic you could definitely consider at that $3,800 price tag. He's had big games in the past. Just for whatever reason, seems to have trouble sustaining consistent minutes. But when he does get them, he is usually pretty productive. So I don't mind that call. Tyler Hero, I do think is interesting. I mean, especially with this, I don't know. I mean, he probably knows the Jimmy Butler situation to Hero and maybe the Heat. Like, they're probably kind of preparing to play without Butler for, an extended period of time, maybe indefinitely. And like, Hero maybe relishes the chance to be like the true number one guy in this offense, right? And start a point guard and have the ball constantly. And we've seen him, have some big games recently. 2 of the last 3, his down game did come against Orlando, who he faces tonight, of course. And where does Jalen Suggs rank on your kind of, no-fly zone for on-ball defenders? I think he's pretty high up there. So I just don't know if I want to take that path, right? Like against one of the better defenders in the entire league, against like the slowest team. Is that the team and player that you want to take, an 8K Tyler Hero against? Probably not on this slate. That said, I do think his upside is there as the clear number one guy in the offense with Butler out of there. But I just think there are better spots. A couple games we're going to get to. I think Chicago, Atlanta up next. Guard spots are kind of precious on this slate, right? You can't be giving them away willy-nilly. So I don't know if Tyler Hero or really much from this game is going to make it either. Probably among these 3 early games, probably mostly just Charlotte and Washington for me. And even that, I'm not going to go crazy with them either.
Yeah, I think the one guy I'm gonna leave Jovic in my pool for sure. So Jovic and Hero would be the 2 guys I leave in my pool. But I agree with you; it's kind of a tougher spot in general for Miami, and Jalen Suggs definitely a good defender. And I don't really like anything from Orlando. So these late games are definitely the better spots, right? DC, we can definitely agree on that. That like, we just got the Giannis news, so we're going to get to Dame Lillard and stuff like that. But there's definitely going to be some really good plays. I think Houston and New Orleans going to have some really good plays. In Chicago, Atlanta, which we'll get to right now.
What about Trevelyan Queen? I mocked this guy last time I was on the show, and he dropped a 30-piece on my head. So I don't know. Should I get on the Trevelyan Queen bandwagon?
I would not, personally. That's just me. But
that's what I wanted to hear. Not. I didn't plan.
Did they wait? I thought just Giannis was out. Was it Dame out too?
I think Dame's out too.
Oh, they're both out. Okay.
He's doubtful for Dame, but I assume he's.
Oh shoot, I'm in it. I saw Trae Young available. For some reason, I saw available, and it's Trae Young that's available. So That's what happens when you look too fast. So Trae Young available, Bogdan out, Dame out. Okay, so Dame's out, Giannis out. Yeah, Middleton's in. I kind of want to get to DC. Do you want to? Let's get to that game real quick since we have the news, and I think it's one of the more important games. Can we get to Milwaukee first, and then we'll pivot back because I think that's what the chat wants, anyways. So let's get to Milwaukee here. So no Dame, no Giannis, Bobby Portis. I mean, this is a smash matchup for someone like Bobby Portis. And I like bigs against Brooklyn. Middleton looks pretty good the last 2 games. He's still not getting a ton of run. I will say that game did kind of blow out. So I can't remember how many minutes exactly he potentially could have lost, but it was a few minutes towards the end. So maybe he would have played a little bit more, but Ryan Rollins, 4,500. Not a terrible play. I don't think Gary Trent might get a little bit of a minutes bump. He's been playing pretty well. He's still 4,200. What are you doing with the Bucks? Because I mean, I definitely want at least one of those bigs from the Bucks, and then probably one of the like a guard, so like a Middleton or a Rollins or like someone like that. So that's the way I'm kind of looking at them. What about you, DC?
Yeah, certainly the Bucks are one of the more important teams to get right on this slate. We did just see, was it the exact same players available in their last game that are available today? I think so. I mean, or pretty close at least, with Giannis and Dame out, obviously the 2 most important pieces. I mean, I think we've seen it enough from Portis at this point when Giannis is out and Dame out. I'm just going to play Portis at 7K. I mean, at 7K, he's not guaranteed to get there, but I still think even with the elevated price tag, he's arguably the best play on the slate. I definitely think he's the most likely player to score 50 plus at 7K or below. I don't even think that's close, honestly. So Bobby Portis is going to be, frankly, probably in all my lineups. The bigger question is what to do with the Bucks after Portis, because I do think a lot more room for where else you could go. I mean, you could go to Brook Lopez. He played 36 minutes against Chicago, only scored 26 fantasy points. But he was actually going to play 40 minutes in that game. Jesse, you asked about the Middleton minutes. It was a blowout. Looks like Middleton, Portis, Lopez all missed, 4 minutes at the very end of that game. So Middleton would have played 27-ish, Portis 36, and Lopez.
It sounds right, because I was tilting one more assist from Middleton for 34K, and did not get it because he got pulled. So I stopped watching after that point. I was very tilted. So I mean, it sounds about right.
Lopez, he is pretty dusty. Lopez is. But if you're going to get like 36, 37, 38 minutes out of a $5,700 center, you got to consider
in a good matchup too. In a good matchup, like this is a good spot for someone like Brook Lopez, and they have nobody else. Like the offense is running through Chris Middleton, who is gonna make for others because that's more of what his game is now that he's a little older and he's been around for a little bit. He's gonna get, like, these bigs are going to get the ball a decent amount. And you would expect one of them to be on the floor most of the game, right, DC? Which is the other intriguing thing about both. I kind of want to play both Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis.
Yeah, I mean, they're both going to play a ton of minutes, so they're going to both be out there a lot, obviously. But yeah, I think you can play them both. They're not that expensive to, where that's prohibitive that they could both get there. What are you doing with Middleton? I mean, I'm looking up. Yeah, I didn't watch that game, but he's kind of the clear offensive threat, at least based on the numbers. At 13,
they just don't
in that game. Yeah.
Yeah, they just don't have. He is the playmaker in that game, right? He's the Ben Simmons, but can also score the rock, right? He's the guy who's going to control the ball, the pace of the Bucks play at, and he's going to get those guys their looks. Because if you look at everyone else that the Bucks have, none of them are really playmakers. Like, I mean, I guess Darrell Wright really doesn't have an offensive game outside of that. So, I mean, he's super passive. Taurean Prince, not a playmaker. AJ Green, definitely not a playmaker. Gary Trent. These are all guys that need to be playmade for. They need someone to set them up, right? These aren't guys that can create for themselves really off the maybe Trent, maybe the best, and that's not even really his game, creating off the dribble. That the only guys that can really do that, I mean, really, Chris Middleton. I mean, I guess even Bobby Portis, like, you got to set him up. Brooke Lopez, you'd have to set him up. Like, right, DC?
Yeah.
Who am I missing? Who can create off the dribble and, like, get their own shot or a shot for someone else?
No, that's nobody really. And I'm looking at the numbers, and it kind of backs up that thought that, just watching these players play, you would kind of come to that conclusion. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, Middleton was going to play, I think, 27 minutes in that game. If it would have stayed reasonably close, that would have been a season high. He's been back for, like 8 or 9 games, something like that. He had a couple days off, so potentially could push close to 30 minutes here, I think is possible for Middleton. If he gets 30 minutes, he's probably getting there, or close to 30 minutes. He's probably getting there at 6,500. I don't know. I don't think it's crazy to play Middleton, Portis. It may be one more buck, but we do have some other good teams to talk about as well.
So I would say that the $5 that I have in play would probably be Middleton, Portis, Lopez, Rollins, and Trent. Just the only reason why I think Trent's the only one of those, like, cheap guys, DC, outside of maybe Rollins, that has, like, actual, like, big game upside, like, can drop 25. Yeah. Like, he could drop like 20, 25 actual points. Again, like, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I think he's like one of the, like, I can't see AJ Green doing it, especially losing all those plays. Like, I can't see many of these guys doing it. It has to be on the backs of kind of those 3 guys and then maybe one other guy. So I'm not playing multiple of those cheap guys together, if you know what I mean. I'm going to play like 1 with 2 to 3 of the top 3 guys is how I look at them.
I like that. I will say, if I just ask myself, I know they're not the same price exactly, but do I want Trent or Rollins in that mid to low 4K range? Or do I want to find 2K to get to Middleton? I'd rather get to Middleton myself.
I would rather get to Middleton. Yes, I would rather get to Middleton. But if your question was more like Rollins or Trent, I think Rollins has the minutes, like, security a little bit more than Trent, because they do have other guys that can play Trent's position. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have many other, guys, because Middleton's kind of minutes seem somewhat capped, right? Even if we think he could have played 4 more minutes, they're still capped. So
I think they're pretty capped at 30, I would assume.
I would assume that too. Yeah, 28 to 30, I think, is where, but he can get there at that, at his price. So
absolutely.
That's one side, DC. Brooklyn side, I mean, Ben Simmons, he's questionable to play right now. We don't have that news. I don't think we're going to get it. I do think that kind of means, a decent amount for this team who's already down a bunch of guys, and if they lose him, that's a guy who's been playing, 30 minutes the past 5 games right now. He's been playing 29 to 31 minutes, 32 minutes. And I think that opens the door up for, a Keon Johnson, a Shake Milton, to be decent plays in this game against the Bucks with no Giannis and no Dame. What do you think?
You're saying if Simmons is out?
I'm saying if Simmons is out, Ben Simmons, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if Simmons is in, I don't really like much outside of, I think you could play him, but that's really it.
Yeah, it's weird for a team to be dependent on Ben Simmons in terms of what you want to do with him. But I do think it's kind of true with Brooklyn. I mean, if you take Ben Simmons out of the equation and you just look at the price points of the players left, they almost have to have some guys get there, right? Like, they just don't have. Yep. I mean, Keon Johnson's 4K, Shake Milton's 3,800, and if Simmons is out, like, that's like a lot of the minutes in the backcourt almost have to go to those guys in a pretty good matchup against Milwaukee. So you'd have to consider them. I don't know I wasn't really planning or hoping to play those guys, but you're kind of, and this is at least on DraftKings the final lock of the slate, along with Houston and New Orleans. So whether or not you want to save spots, I guess you'll have to decide that. But the nice thing is Milwaukee does have even though we don't want to play them all in the same lineup, they do have several players in that 4K range: Rollins, Wright, Trent, Green, that you can play and not feel too bad about it. So, yeah, I think you could, kind of backload for this game a little bit at least, and potentially get some pretty good plays. What are you? I mean, are you building your lineups hoping to play Keon Johnson or Milton? That doesn't feel great doing that, to be honest.
No, doesn't feel great, and I don't think I'm going to prioritize waiting, but I do think I'm going to have teams with guys later and less guys early, right?
Simmons is in, apparently. Ben Simmons is, so.
Oh, did I miss that? Must have missed that.
Yeah, it came down. Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, then we don't have to worry about that then screw that. I think he's the only guy I could play.
Yeah, and I'm not playing Ben Simmons at 5,900, so no thanks. No thanks, Brooklyn.
Okay. And we got Tari Eason out. All right. I'm just kind of updating my news here.
Eason and Brooks are both out, yeah.
Yeah, Brooks is out. Yep, Brooks is still out. Gilgeous-Alexander, Wallace, Thor, Jalen Williams, Hartenstein, starting lineup for OKC. Okay. All right. That sounds about it from that game. Let's go back to the 7:30 window where I think we left off. And Chicago, Atlanta. No Giddey, no Ayo. DC, another spot where you get some pretty good value, right? Oh, and no Lonzo Ball either. So,
yeah,
Chicago seems like a decent spot to get some to grab some value.
Yeah, absolutely. These are the spots I just don't pass up, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But Kobe White going to be in my lineup with Giddey, Dosunmu, Lonzo Ball all out. Massive role shift for him. I do, you look at the last two games, it looks ugly, but we've seen plenty of big games from Kobe White. I do think he can handle more usage. I think he gets a big bump. So like White, Zach LaVine, another one who I think can do more. He can shoot more than he has been. He can be a playmaker, can play big minutes. You're going to get a pace-up game here, Jesse. I mean, these two teams are, I believe they're second and third in the league in transition opportunities per game. So they both like to run. And I just, sometimes when you get like a fast team versus a slow team, sometimes you don't know which style is going to win out. When you get two teams who like to run, there's no contrast of styles here. I think these teams are going to get up and down the court, put up a lot of fantasy points. I think they're like second and fourth in the league in steals allowed. So we're just going to see a lot of easy buckets, transition basketball, which is fantastic for DFS. So White, LaVine, Buzelis is out as well for Chicago, who, is playing 15, 20 minutes. I think that puts Horton Tucker in play at 3,700 for sure. Patrick Williams at 4,100. I think he's got to be in play, given how thin the Bulls are. And then it's like, how far down do you want to go? I mean, I don't think I'm going to get to like Craig and Phillips, but I don't think they're the worst plays in the low 3K range. And even Vucevic, right? There's plenty of usage to go around here. I know, the transition type of game doesn't necessarily fit him, but like this is the type of game where he gets those like trailing 3-pointers, right? Where he's like gets the rebound, he's running up the court, gets the pass, and just buries it from the top of the key. So you gotta love Chicago here. The guards are my priority. White, LaVine, Horton Tucker would be my three favorite, but I think you could play for Chicago. And then on the Atlanta side, I mean, Chicago's been one of the best teams to target all year long. I was hoping Trae Young would sit so that we could just get the full-on.
Such a good matchup for him too.
Yeah.
I wish we could get Jalen Johnson just running and gunning the whole game.
Well, he's going to run and gun anyway, Jalen Johnson. So I still like Johnson. He is my favorite play on the Hawks now that Trae Young is in. Trae Young himself is definitely a good play as well, but I do think it takes, for me at least, I'm not going to play Daniels at 6,700. I think that's too much with Trae Young in there. I don't think I'm going to get to Hunter. So it's Johnson on the Hawks side. Johnson, my number one. Trae Young would be 2. And I kind of like Larry Nance here in a fast-paced game. Perfectly fits his style. Could have some troubles with Vooch, but the Hawks might just say, we'll try to leave Vooch behind and just get this game running. And Larry Nance could do that. He's had 4 pretty good games in a row, split minutes with Capella with a Kongwu out. So I know he's 5K. Still think he could get the job done in this particular matchup. So I do think this is overall JSU the best game on the slate.
Yeah, this paired with the Milwaukee guys, I think are the 2 best spots. If you like, I want to make teams, DC, and I want to get some of these Milwaukee bigs with my Chicago guys and then run from there. I honestly might just fade the first 3 games to be.
That's what I'm doing. We play a similar amount of teams. Yeah.
I just think they're way better. I think multiple games are. We haven't even gotten to the Houston game yet, and I think the Houston game has good plays in it. I mean, yeah. I'm gonna do it. I'm taking out all these guys. Like, there's guys I like. Like, I think LaMelo's a good play, but Chicago's just clearly the best spot. I mean, Kobe White is 60.
It's a hard slate to have figured out fully right now with kind of the information coming in. And we're kind of lukewarm on those first 3 games. We'll get information on the rest of the slate by the time the next game is locked. It makes sense to me to, be cautious with those first 3 games.
Yeah, so the way I'm looking at Chicago, I kind of want 2 of those 3 top-tier guys, and then I like THT and Pat Williams as value plays. If I need a value guy, THT or Pat Williams. I mean, THT kind of fits. They're down so many guards, and even though he's like a bigger forward, he kind of plays like a guard, right? Even though he's like kind of overweight right now.
He definitely plays like a guard. He's like he needs to get in a little better shape, but he does pretty good when he's out there.
You know when they say like out for conditioning, like whenever Horton Tucker came back, he just skipped the conditioning. He skipped the whole conditioning period where you just kind of wait a week and get conditioned.
I don't understand how these like professional athletes can just be like extremely just like out of shape.
I'll tell you how. No, I'll tell you how. They probably have horrible diets. They probably just eat McDonald's. Do you remember when Ant came into the league and he would just like talk about like McDonald's, and these guys,
I understand
they're so athletic. They don't take anything else seriously because they're just so much more athletic than everyone. So once they get into the league, they're like, oh shit, everyone else is just as athletic as I am. Like, fuck, I could win on athleticism everywhere, but that's what happens. So Atlanta, though, I'm with you, kind of more the studs, but I do agree with you that Larry Nance, this style of play, I think fits him very well. So
it feels a little thin at 5K, but I do think he can put up 35 fantasy points in this matchup. So
I think he can cover that tag. Yeah, I definitely think he can cover that tag for sure. So, but priority is Chicago. But again, like Jalen Johnson, Larry Nance, I feel like fits this game script pretty damn well if you want to get someone like that in your lineups here. Let's get to Toronto, Memphis. Still got 2 more games left to talk about here. Toronto, Memphis, Scotty Barnes, Ja Morant look like to me clearly the best 2 plays from this game. And I think you could play Zach Edey as a value play. I think he was a more interesting value play, though, DC, before some of this news. But I think he's also in play at 5,100. I think he's got the ability to get over that tag. But I think I'm a little more less interested now that I got so much like with Milwaukee and Chicago in those teams. So it's mainly the stars, the Ja Morant and the Scotty Barnes. And I really like Ja Morant at 8,500. I think that's a good price tag for him.
That definitely is. I think you'll get players in this game underowned. There's no reason this game couldn't have, the stars in it, right? So I think a mistake that people make is they look at like the game of, and I do this too. I'm guilty of it, where you like kind of write off an entire game just because it's not doesn't have the necessary pieces. But when you're talking about the stars, like those guys, they're going to get their minutes anyway, right? They don't necessarily need people to be out to just go off. So this is a good game to maybe find value elsewhere and play a John Morant, Scotty Barnes, little mini stack, low and mini stack, hope the game's close, something like that. Again, these guys aren't core plays for me, but no reason they couldn't end up on the winner. I think Zach Edey, a good call. He's just I think a pretty fun play on a nightly basis. You don't know what you're going to get, but the upside is there. Same thing for Jaren Jackson Jr. Again, absolutely no problem with anybody playing him at 7,200 with the upside he brings. That said, I do think, if we're just talking about the straight value, the straight point per dollar, pre-slate projected value, I don't know if a lot from this game is going to get there for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I said, I think it was more before we got all this news that I was thinking about it here. So, yep, I agree. It's more just the studs and going from there. So let's get to the last game to talk about here, which I think is one of my favorite games here, and I like both sides of this game. To be honest with you, DC, I think the New Orleans side has interesting plays, even though it is a tough matchup. I think DeJounte and CJ McCollum are both interesting spends if you want to go there. I feel like there's value in those price tags too. Still, I think they can definitely show some upside with those price tags at 7K and 8,400 for those guys. But our Houston boys are back. We got Amen back on the slate, DC. So I got to go back to our boy Amen Thompson. Crushed for us last time. Yeah. We called it too on the show. We said it. We knew right when the news came out and he was in there, we were like, yep, we're playing this dude. So, and then shout out to K Fallick for the Cam Whitmore call because he smashed as well. But what are we doing here with Houston, New Orleans?
Yeah, we can't betray our man, Mr. Thompson. Come on down. We'll bring it on down again, Thompson. You did it for us last time out. I'll go right back to you in the pretty much the exact same situation that you had before. A lot of the points. I think that was on Friday, or no. I'm so confused with days now. Maybe Monday. Whenever it was. Yeah.
It was a few days ago, but it was Monday, I think.
Yeah. 6K. They showed that they'll give him the minutes. I think he's just a fantastic play here. He's in my lineup. I don't think I'm going to get to the other Houston guys, probably including Whitmore. But, yeah, I don't think that's a terrible play at 4K. And then Pelicans, yeah. Kind of like Memphis for me, where McCollum, Murray are fine plays, kind of like Morant and Jaren Jackson are, but not priority plays. And guard spots are just really tough to give up on this slate. So probably won't end up a ton here outside of Thompson. Can you still play him at forward? Yeah, small forward. Thompson is eligible there. So nice bonus for Thompson.
Yeah, so Amen Thompson, he's literally a double-doubles plus 165, DC. I kind of like the double-double at plus 165. So might have to take a little stab at that. Also, too, Jabari Smith double-doubles plus 450. That's another guy. He gets a bump, too, with Tari out because Tari's taken away from him, and then Amen comes in and kind of takes away, too. So I do think those are interesting. What about Cam Whitmore? He's 4K now. He's not 3,200, but can we go back to some Cam, or is it, did we get the Cam explosion last game?
I don't think I'm going to chase the Cam points, but I didn't have him last game either. So maybe I'm,
I played him last game. No, I played when K Fallick, when someone said it about K Fallick's score, it kind of hit me. I was like, he's right. Like Cam Whitmore is definitely a decent play, especially with Brooks out too. I think he's the best play off the bench. Like clearly, it's not even close. So if you're gonna play someone off the bench, it's definitely him. The other guy I kind of like is Jalen Green, and my only worry at all is like Herb Jones might be on him. I would assume he goes on him or Van Fleet, DC. I don't know if you have a take on that, and I think Herb Jones is one of the better defenders, but
yeah.
I do think Jalen Green's price tag at 6,300. I'm going to go back to some. He had a bad game last time out, but I'm going to probably go back to a little bit here. I think he could smash here in the spot.
I don't mind that at all. Yeah, it's kind of a sneaky good game here with, especially on the Rockets side, missing two big pieces in Brooks and Tari Eason.
Yeah, Jabari's in a good spot too. The Houston side, you can sell me on all these guys. I love the Houston side for sure. So I'm big pro Houston. Did you talk about New Orleans at all? Do you like any of these guys or?
I'm mostly off New Orleans at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. Are
That's
you getting
fair. We
there?
got a lot of good spots.
Yeah.
All right. If you guys want to throw in some questions, we got about 5 minutes left. We can take some questions if anyone's got them. My cores are up. One thing you'll notice about my cores is every single guy on there is none of them lock at 7. So if you haven't looked at it yet, you're good because pretty much they all lock later than 7:30 or later. So Sengun or Morant? I'm going Morant.
Me too.
Like it. Thoughts on Brogdon?
Too old.
He's broken.
He's dusty, man. I don't want to play Brogdon. I just.
But Boston knew what they were doing when they just dumped him. Like it.
He's been dumped by
like
2 or 3 teams at this point. So
he's just got too many injuries. He's injury riddled. It's just one of those things. He's a good player that just he can't do it anymore because he's just always hurt. Do I really have to play Hami Hot? You do not. I don't think you do. I really don't think you do. I think there are other pivots you can play. I mean, we talked about those. We talked about those Bulls guys. Patrick Williams is the similar price. 4,100 is a similar price. I think he's a solid play. I think THT is a good play. I think Cam Whitmore is a decent play at 4K. There's definitely. I mean, you got the Bucks guys. I think Gary Trent, Ryan Rollins. Those are all like in the 4K range of guys. DC. I kind of like those guys.
100%, and just a broader point. I think now with projections and ownership projections where they are, like there's rarely a play that you kind of have to play because even if they're a really good play, typically everybody's going to be on them anyway, which makes them, and I'm not saying
not as good of a play, right?
Yeah. So, you might, I know you put the LOL, so you're asking in jest maybe, but I do think just it is relevant to say, like, if you really don't want to play a guy, especially on a slate like this, there's plenty of different ways to go away from any individual player.
All right, let's fire some of these here. Morant or Murray, FanDuel? I'm assuming.
Morant.
I would slightly go Morant too. Lopez or Sarr? I'm going Lopez. DC?
Same, but I do like both players.
Hamburger or turkey burger? Oh, turkey burger. Disgusting. No, and no one says turkey burger ever. If they do, just disregard everything they say.
I've never even had a turkey burger, and I plan to keep it that way.
DC, it's disgusting. I'll tell you, you'll spit it out. Guaranteed.
Yeah, I'm not eating that.
I like the mid-tier build tonight. I love the mid-tier build. I love it. I wanted to play some studs. I wanted to play an SGA build. I'm probably not now. There's just too many good mid-tier plays. What about Julian Phillips? DC, you got any Phillips from Chicago?
No, I don't think he's an unreasonable play. There's just enough value where I didn't need to go. I mean, I like Horton Tucker quite a bit better than Phillips. If you're going for a cheap bull.
Thoughts on J-Dub in JBC's core? I got no problem with J-Dub. I'm not coring him. I'm not, trying to fit him in. But if I landed in that range, I wouldn't have an issue with playing him. Only Jovic at 2,800, 3,800. I'm not going to play Jovic now, but I didn't hate him at the price tag. Thoughts on Middleton? I don't mind Middleton. I think he fits the mid-tier build. It only sucks that he's probably got a minutes cap, but
I feel like he's going for 40. Middleton feels like he's going for 40 tonight anyway, though.
Yeah, it kind of just feels like a 40 burger right there. Hero or Vooch straight up? I'm going Vooch.
Me too, but I think both are pretty good plays. Mm-hmm.
I definitely think both are solid plays for sure. Favorite NFL play? Ooh. Nance, we're both fine with Nance as the last piece. That's what I kind of like. Like, don't force him in, but if you get him as the last piece, I think it's good tournament play. Hawkes, Trent, Rollins, Queen. I'm going Hawkes, Trent. DC?
Agree with you. Yeah, I'll go Hawkes.
Trent. You got a play of the day, like a favorite play, DC?
Tonight?
Yeah, tonight.
I guess, yeah. It would make sense that you're asking about tonight. Let's go with Horton Tucker off the bench for the Bulls.
Oh, I like that play. I was thinking about giving that play too. I love that call. Shit, I won't handhold with DC. I'll go somewhere else, but that's a good call right there. Can't give my boy Amen 2 times in a row, so I'm gonna go with
him too. But I figured I'd leave him to you. So
no, I'm not giving him because
we'll give Amen Thompson as the joint play of the day.
That's the joint play of the day. That's the joint play of the day. I agree with you there. I'm gonna give for my play of the day. I think Brook Lopez has a sneaky good game. I'm going Brook Lopez. I think he's got a sneaky good big game in him. So
kind of a man going choice, but we'll allow it.
It is, but I'm feeling it today. I'm feeling it today, DC. Just let me. Mangone's gone. I had to take his place, so let me just fully take his place right there. How about that? Let me fully take his place. DC, can you give a play of the day for the opening night of Yeah, DC, can you give us a play of the day?
The calendar. It's about to flip to the new year. That's when DC opens up the old MLB spreadsheet. So we'll can't get there quite yet, Joe, but we'll get there.
Thoughts on Claxton? Put up 50 against the Bucks a few weeks ago. Did we skip on Claxton?
I honestly never really even considered him. So possible I missed something, but not really on my radar.
I think he could have a big game. I just there's too many guys in that range that I like more. I think DC is my thing with Claxton, but no one's gonna play him. That's like an example though of a guy that when you plug him in your lineup, your team's gonna be different. That's like a unique play right there. So we're not gonna like give it out, but if he hits and you want to be different, and you want to play a 1% guy who's got a low floor, but he's got a ceiling, I'm always fine with those type of guys. As long as I know they can give me the big game, right? Like I'm totally fine with plays like that, but I'm not playing him personally. Kobe or Amen? God, that's close. Those are like the 2 of the best plays on the slate.
Yeah, I have both those guys in all my lineups.
The same.
But we can't go away from our man. If you got to choose, Amen Thompson.
Amen, sir. I agree. All right, DC. And NFL play. DC, do you got an NFL play for the people? Do you got like a prop or a bet?
I do. Yeah, I've got an NFL
What do you got?
play. So no Kenneth Walker. Last game, they didn't even put Charbonnet into the game until like the third quarter. He was questionable all week. Now on the short week again, I worry that Charbonnet is not going to be someone that they want to give a full workload to with seemingly a kind of a real injury. So I think Kenny McIntosh can take more snaps out of the backfield. I believe he's 2,400 on DraftKings. I think he could see close to 50% of this share for Seattle out of the backfield. And I think Charbonnet going to be super chalk as well. So he feels like good leverage to me.
If you think that his rush prop is only 17.5.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a pretty good bet. If you
again, it's not the most likely thing to happen, but when it does happen, you're going to be sitting pretty good. Or if it does happen.
It's funny. I kind of like the backup running back for Chicago, Roshan. He's kind of the guy that I kind of like I can see that too. It's just like a value play for showdown. The showdown value plays are not very good. And I think with the Bears having nothing to play for, coming on a short week, I could see Roshan, getting a few more snaps. Seattle has been getting hurt on the ground a little bit. So honestly, Seattle's defense has been getting hurt in general the last couple of weeks. That Like if you look at their early numbers, DC, like quarterbacks weren't doing as good against them. But if you look at like the last 4 weeks, quarterbacks, receivers are doing much better against them. So I don't know if they're just kind of slowing down towards the end of the year or if it was more of a matchup thing with some of the better teams. Because I think they played some decent teams, but they're definitely like not. That's why like you can't take like the numbers for what they are all throughout the year because teams like change as the year goes on. Guys get hurt and it changes things. But I did notice that they were getting hurt a little bit more by, quarterbacks later in the year. Which Caleb Williams' trailing script has not failed me the last few weeks. It has not failed, DC. The trailing Caleb Williams quarterback.
I'm just looking. I feel some good Thursday night football shenanigans happening in this game. Where I don't know, maybe we'll get some good Caleb Williams, crying on the ground after a hit or something, and everybody will come up with their hot takes. It's gonna be great.
I do love how he gets up like the oldest person in the world. Like every time he gets hit, he gets up like, and he's just like, you could just tell he just feels like the oldest guy in the world. But my guy I like is Rome. I think Rome's I think it's a Rome game here. I bet his overs. I think his anytime touchdown numbers like plus 330. They've been trying to get this dude in. I know it's been Keenan. I've been on Keenan like the past 3 or 4 slates. Like I do think this is a spot where Rome gets some looks here. So I'm big on Rome tonight. I hit his over. I think it was like, was it 37? What was his receiving yard prop? It was 3.5, 41.5. So I hit the over on that. Yeah, I hit the over on that, and I took his alts all the way up to like 70 yards, I think, which was plus 340 on DraftKings. So that's what I'm doing here. If you want the rest though, RPS 15, I got my 3-max strategy showdown slate. I got it up. NBA slate builders up too. Like I said, it's all later games, so still good. If you want to sign up, RPS 15, you can get DC's early MLB looks for whoever he thinks is a lock to hit a home run. I'm sure he'll have it up in like, a couple weeks. So you'll be ready to go for opening day. And DC, final thoughts before we get out of here.
Another fun night of sports and more coming on the weekend. It's like truly football season right now if you like college football as well. So busy time, but a lot of fun as well.
It is a good time. It's definitely a good time. Woof, hammer, or woof. I love that. I love the woof. Premium. This is not starting. Still like him. THT was never going to start.
Yep.
So don't worry about that. I don't think DC thought he was going to start. I never thought he was going to start. Yeah. He's the guy who comes off the bench, offensive spark. That's where you want him, honestly, too. You don't want him in the game with all the best offensive guys to start.
He's gonna be like the backup point guard in this game. He'll get his,
especially with no Lonzo too on top. Like that's a big thing too. Not just Giddey, Ayo, and Lonzo are their 3 like actual point guards. Those are all their 3 like real point. Because Kobe White's not an actual point guard. He's a shooting guard that's too short, but he's a shooting guard. Like that's what he is. He's just shorter. And then Zach LaVine, he's a scorer. He's nothing. He's a scorer. So THT could be like a playmaker. He could play like Chris Middleton type role, DC, right? Like get 22, 23 minutes and have a bunch of potential assists. I could see that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, absolutely.
All right. We're going to get out of here. I got to get my showdown lineups all set up for DC and myself, JSU. We'll see you guys back here same time tomorrow. Until then, good luck in your lineups. We're out.